Ciao. Yo. Yo. Woo. What's up, YouTube? Chris here. Today I thought I would take you through all of my upcoming projects, current, upcoming, or future stuff, what have you. I've got a lot that I'm working on, and it's just been hard to like get one thing done because I'm getting 100,000 things done at the same time. So the easiest thing to do right now is to just walk you through each of those and explain a little bit about what's going on. And so I think this is going to be a super cool video because I'm going to probably talk about all the bikes that I'm currently working on, and maybe you guys can let me know what you think is the coolest or what you want to see first or the best or what have you. So let's get into it. First up here, my latest and greatest bike, in my opinion, is my 1952 Schwinn Hornet. This is no joke, like a bucket list for me. I'm weird because I love the old Schwinn stuff. I've always wanted a 50s Schwinn tank bike. So that's one. I've always wanted a green Schwinn, like regardless of the year. The 70s have really good greens, but this green's good too. I've always wanted a bike with truss forks. And I've always wanted to have a bike with a 1-inch pitch skip tooth chain, which is what this is. It's basically every other tooth. So this thing hits multiple boxes for me. I picked it up for, honestly, like I just traded basically an obsolete mountain bike for it. It was like a 2014 hardtail that was probably worth, like if I were to sell it, it was probably worth more than this. But to me, this bike is worth more because I have a really nice mountain bike and I don't need one from 2014, but I do in my life need a Schwinn tank bike. So right off the bat, some of the things that this thing needs are, it's just been sitting for a really long time and kind of neglected. So I'm going to do my normal routine of just blowing the whole thing apart and making sure all the bearings are good. It rides well. I've ridden it. It's amazing. I love it. It's like everything I thought it was going to be, but it's just creaky and squeaky. And I just want to give it a good bill of health. So I'll pull the cranks and like redo the bearings in there, pull the headset and redo that. It has the wrong handlebars and the wrong stem. The wrong grips. It has the wrong rear wheel and obviously the wrong tire, but it still has the correct skip tooth on the rear. So I have, I didn't go like full vintage. I went on eBay and found a pair of walled, like I think they're new old stock walleds that are 28 inches wide. So they're going to be significantly wider than these. And I have a stem from from a bike from the 60s that I'll put on it. It's not a 50s stem, but I'm not a hardcore purist here. I'm just having fun. I do have to change this egregious tire ASAP. So the first thing I did before I even had the bike was pick this tire up. It wouldn't fit like a normal Schwinn rim. This is an original Schwinn wheel, and I think it's an original tire, but I haven't really looked. In any case, normal 26-inch tires won't fit Schwinn stuff because the Schwinn rims are just weird. This rim, however, is newer, and I know it'll fit this normal 26-inch tire, so I just picked this thing up. The tread matches the front pretty well. It's not identical. Let's see. But it's close. And it won't be as egregious. So that's what I'm going to do on this. I'll also polish the frame a little bit, make it nice. And then I'll ride it for a little bit. And then my big plan, and this is a big plan, is I would like to convert this thing into an electric bike. So hear me out. I wouldn't modify the frame or the bike in any way that I wouldn't be able to return it back to original. So that's one goal. Don't modify the frame. Another goal is make it look like keep the stock look as much as possible. So here, I'll show you. Well, I can't find the battery right now, but I'll show you some other footage. The battery from this bike that goes right here, it fits underneath the tank on this. It's close. I mean, it'll take a little bit of massaging. There's basically 2 mounts for this tank, and I'll show you when I do the project, that you have to like work around because I don't want to modify the tank. So if I can get it to fit between those 2 mounts and get it to fit width-wise, the battery fits in that tank. So that would keep the battery completely hidden. You wouldn't see a battery at all, which is like the main giveaway for an e-bike. Another thing that is going to maintain the stealth of this e-bike would be the rear hub. So my plan is to basically take a parts e-bike, probably not this one, maybe this one. I've got another one that's in worse shape than this, and pull the hub off of this. This is a 700C wheel, so I'll just get rid of the spokes and everything, take the hub, take the cassette off, and build this 26-inch rim around that hub. They're both 36 holes, so the rim and the hub would go together, they do go together. That's the plan. Couple of hurdles. Is the spacing the same? I mean, this is probably 135 mil hub spacing on this bike. I don't know what the Schwinn is. I do know that when you pull the wheels off of Schwinns, the frames can flex a little bit, so I'm not super worried about the width of the hub. There are 2 big hurdles. One is brakes. So this hub is disc only. This hub is coaster brake. Coaster brakes are the only way that Schwinn stops. It doesn't have a front brake. And if I put that hub on the rear, it wouldn't have a rear brake either, so I would have no brakes. So I have to figure out how to, add a caliper brake here, which there are no provisions on these frames to do, and it would probably look bad. I'm thinking about maintaining the disc brake that's on the hub here, and then just doing like an incognito disc brake conversion for the Schwinn, but that is a long road. I think it's possible, but I think it's a long road. Another solution would be to find a fork that would mimic the vibe of this fork here. So have a swoop to it. Obviously be 1 inch with a threaded steerer, and then also QR, and then also have disc brake mounts. And so for that, I think I would have to have that custom made. There's a few companies. I've only found 4 so far. 3 of them are steel. It has to be steel, obviously. It can't be carbon. One of them is Crust, and that looks like the best option. Crust has a good one, except it's a through axle on the front. So maybe it's the case that, well, I mean, who knows? If I have a disc brake on it, I might want to go through axle anyways. So I think through axle with the Crust would be a good way to put at least a really good front brake on this thing, which would be obviously bare minimum. Obviously I do want to have a rear, but it is what it is. Anyways, the rest of the stuff, just kind of, I will do throttle, I think, and I want to make it incognito again. And then the only other thing I need is this controller, and then there's something about the speed sensor, or the cadence sensor rather, in the cranks here, that I'll have to move over to the old-fashioned Ashtabula cranks. That's that project. I think that's the first one on the docket, to be honest with you. I have the most interest in this bike right now, and I'm also super hooked on e-bikes right now. Don't ask me why. Well, ask me why. E-bikes are sick. So I think if I can do this one right and not make it look like an e-bike, it has to be tasteful. So that's the plan. That's the first one. Let's go on to the next one. On the topic of Schwinn still, I'm on a kick, I know. I'm on a huge vintage Schwinn kick. I'm kind of like a little bit burnt out on like the high-end stuff right now. So I've just been riding this lately, and I think I put 40 miles on it in the last week. So this thing's super rad. So it's a 1981 Schwinn. They call it a cruiser. Schwinn calls it a cruiser in 81. It's a little bit different than the older ones. This one has a factory straight fork that's like the BMX style, which is really good for being like this clunker situation that it is. It's got a different brake bridge. This one, like, you can actually mount a brake to, rather than the other ones that were fender bridges. So that's something that's different. It's obviously got this gorgeous Chicago Schwinn, head tube to it. It has my favorite bars of all time, which are these S&M Husky High MX bars. They are the widest bars I own, and I'm super hyped on them. I've got this old Brooks saddle here and a rolled up t-shirt to keep it from completely collapsing because it's at its complete adjustment. What am I gonna do? Okay, so I've been riding this one a lot and I live in a hilly area. The front chainring there is a 46, so it's pretty big, and the rear is pretty small. I'm not necessarily sure what that is, but basically, like, on some of these hilly climbs, I have to push, or I'm like fully standing. It's hard. It's hard is all I'm saying. So what I did was, I went on Marketplace, found this chainring. It would be from a 20-inch bike, like, a Stingray, although I don't think it's Stingray, or like a Little Chick or a Bantam or something. Anyways, it has 36 teeth, so it's also a lot shorter, the crank. So I think I'm just gonna pull this chainring off and put it on there, and then ride that for a little bit and see if I like that gear ratio. I also had to add that water bottle because I've been doing hour-plus rides with this thing. And yeah, that's all that there is to that. This thing is sweet, so we'll do a little bit more of this. I'll do, for the channel, I'll swap those, and then take you through that whole thing, and then maybe do some riding clips. Next up is this rad Ross mount hood. I think it's early 80s. I haven't really thought too much about it, to be honest with you. This was like an add-on as part of the trade deal that I did to get the Schwinn Hornet. This was kind of just like, the deal wasn't quite one-to-one, so I asked the dude to throw this in, and he did, and boom, check it out. This thing is cool, 1, because it's chrome, 2, because it's vintage mountain bike, 3, because it has these roller cam brakes, which I always love. They currently work really well. So you pull up on the cable there, and it spreads the calipers apart, pivots here, and then pushes in, obviously, right there. So it's got these cool bear trap pedals, original stuff. They need to be rebuilt. It's full Suntour XC Sport, so I feel like it's mid-tier Suntour. I'm not quite sure. Oh, look, it's got this pretty little frame pump braze on here. Tonge MTB tube set. It's just like smattered with cool vintage mountain bike charm. Oh, also chainstay roller cam brakes. I mean, if that's not like, what is that, 86? I don't know. I'll have to look it up, something like that. If that's not mid 80s, then I don't know what is. I think my plans for this is how I got it. So this seat I find to be hideous on this era bike because I I have a weird philosophy with seats, but basically this, like the cushion should come down below the rail on vintage saddles. I think for these mountain bikes. And so that's just a little too modern for this. The other thing is those S&M Husky bars that I showed you on my other Schwinn. These bad boys. I got a pair of those in chrome to put on here. So I'm gonna put, those Husky MX bars on here. Do the same thing, like blow this whole thing apart, clean it up. So Husky bars, new saddle. I think I'll just leave the tires. They're black, like they could be cooler, but they're here. They're actually in really good shape. They're actually nice tires. So I'm just gonna leave them, clean this up and go from there. But here she is. Yeah, this one is interesting because it's super cool. It's a cool vintage road bike, but I fell hard and deeply out of love with vintage road bikes for like the last couple of years. I used to be all about them, lug steel road bikes, 10-speed stuff, Shimano 600, Dura, Campy, what have you, super stoked on it. And then this one fell into my lap. Somebody was moving away and they gave it to me. So it's also got a ton of really cool bits on it. Like, I'll walk you through it, but as it is, I mean, like I said, I don't have the vintage road bike bug. I don't want to spend any money on it. And so it's just been kind of sitting, like it's got a lot of cobwebs on it and stuff. But here, let me just walk you through it and I'll explain a bit about it. So this is a Raleigh competition. I forget the year. It's obviously mid 80s. These are nice bikes. Apart from like Raleigh had sort of like the low end stuff and they had nicer stuff. So this one is the hand built Raleigh with Reynolds 531 tubing. So this is actually a nice piece. The lugs are really pretty here. The paint is really pretty. It's like this beautiful pearl. It's just dirty. So it's a really pretty bike and it's got interesting components like this Campy seat post that's fluted for like 80s aero. It has these amazing middle burn cranks on it, which are honestly probably the only reason I'm keeping this. I've had this bike around for 2 years because someday I'll do something with those. It has a Dura rear derailleur. The rims I think are Mavic, but they're kind of like whatever. I don't really like the profile. Comes with these nice vintage cobwebs. It's got Exage brakes, which are low end from Shimano. So it's just a smattering. This fork I don't think is original. It's just kind of like a Suntour or something chromed fork. Shimano RX 100 front hub, so that's random. Dura Ace brifters here. I threw this Italman Marie stem on because I took the other stem for a different bike, which I'll show you. That Strong Light stem is headset is another reason why I'm keeping this. So I think the plan with this is to, I don't like riding drop bar vintage road bikes right now. Maybe that'll change in a few years. I don't like them as is. So, and I'll show you in a minute, I have another one that sort of fits that build. I think if I can find enough parts laying around, I'll flat bar this thing. It wouldn't take much. It would take down tube shifters that would solve the shifting, or thummies, but down tube shifters is easier. And obviously the bar, which is right there, and brake levers. And that's really it. I would also blow it apart, clean it up, probably change the tires to something like maybe like tan wall, a little bit thicker, and then maybe change the brakes to something that's more chromed out. But this is a long-term project. Like, I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Do you like this bike? Do you think it's cool? Should I build it? You know, it's probably $50 away from being a rad bike, but it's a rad bike right now. It's just kind of like a rad rafter bike. So that's that one. Let's go on to the next one. Woo! Next up is my Panasonic DX5000 vintage road bike, but it's been modernized. So this was my road bike pretty much all through, well, I say all through college, kind of. I frame swapped it. These were my road bike components all through college. And I had the build on an old Lotus road bike frame, which I ended up bending, unfortunately. So sometime around the holidays a few years ago, I hopped on Craigslist and found a Panasonic DX5000, which is pretty much the top of the Panasonic lineup from 1986. There's a few more above it, like there's a few teams, like there's like a Team USA and a Team Japan or something if you look at the catalogs, but it's basically just different builds with the same frame set. Not true, they have different tube sets, so different steel. But this is Tongay 1, so it is like the steel that I wanted at the time. I was looking for a Tongay 1 frame set. I wasn't necessarily looking for a Panasonic. I just wanted that tube set. Some of the things I did were I converted it. You'll see. Yeah, so here it is. It has this Ultegra crankset on it, which was new at the time when I put it on. Obviously, it doesn't go with the aesthetic of the bike. Like, it sticks out like a sore thumb now, but I promise when I built this, 6 or 7 years ago, that was cool. Dura Ace rear derailleur, Dura Ace hubs, Mavic Open Pro ceramic coated rims, WTB 30Cs exposures. So I actually had to file down. They're a little bit deflated right now, but when they're inflated, they just barely miss the inside top of that caliper there. So I actually had to file down that Ultegra caliper a little bit to get them to fit. This Ritchie Classic seat post, Celitalia saddle that I've had forever. Here is, I think, where the magic is. So Ritchie Classic bars, Ritchie Classic stem, 1.1/8" straight. The way I did that was, this is an inch straight, non-threaded steerer, or steerer on this carbon fork here that I painted white and put a Panasonic logo on. Then I spaced it out to 1.1/8" here, used the Chris King 1-inch threadless headset with the spacer so that the 1.1/8" fits on this 1-inch straight steer fork. And that is how you convert your old road bike to 1.1/8". I really hate the quill stem 1.1/8" adapters. Like, I did everything to avoid those at all costs. I just think they look cheesy because this portion right here never sits flush. I don't know why they taper those. They could just have them flush and then the whole thing would sit flush, which would be a little bit more appealing to me. But since they taper them, I don't like the way they look. That's how I got around that. These have just Ultegra, sort of older like flight deck levers. Again, the Ultegra calipers. WTB tires, which are too big but perfect. And there's that Tongay 1. Oh, also, to convert these old bikes to the Shimano Holotech, it's no big deal. You just pull the old cranks off, take the old bottom bracket out, and then the Holotech bottom bracket threads right in. It's just BSA. And that's how you convert that to the Shimano Holotech stuff. And that's why, for the longest time, Shimano Holotech was the best, because you could just convert these old frames. Now there's a bunch of other stuff you can use. So that's that one. There's nothing to do here. This is kind of a rafter bike now. Pretty to look at. Okay, next up is what I, for the longest time, just called my dad bike. This is an early 90s Nishiki Colorado. I think this has something to do with Richard Cunningham. Yeah, here it is. Cunningham design. I think that's something to do with like this wishbone seat stay here, how he did his. He was also, I think, the guy who started doing roller cam. I'm not sure. You can check me on that. But this is a really cool bike. So the story with this is I got this frame on Facebook Marketplace when I had my first kid, because I wanted to build a dad bike out of it. A dad bike to me is something where I can put my kid's seat on it and cruise around. And so it just kind of fits to the stem. So that's what I did. And my daughter and I have probably done a couple 100 miles on this thing since I built it. So I got it on Facebook Marketplace. I paid $20 for the bike. I'll show you a picture of what it looked like when I got it. But one of the problems was the entire rear triangle was bent over about 20 mil. So I had to create like a little jig. And by jig, I just mean like stick to move it over, to bend it back. And then, yeah, built it from there. So it's kind of built around the Velo Orange Klunker bars, which when I built this, they were new. No one was really like, well, actually I had these bars for a while. Oh, so I had them on a different bike. That's what it was. Cause I built this 2 years ago and I've had these bars for longer than that. Anyways, I built it around this. I think they're a little bit played out now, like everybody does. VO Klunker bars. They're cool. I love them. They do have an issue because you can't, like this stem, this original Salsa stem, I had to spread the clamp a little bit to get around this because they are 2-piece bars, which means you can't just slide them on. So that's one thing to consider. It's a pretty big consideration, actually. Like, it makes it difficult for a lot of applications. You have to have a removable faceplate on the stem unless you're willing to bend it like I did. Anyways, I think those are pretty cool. It also has full XTR. So it has XTR brakes with an Avid brake bridge. What this bridge does is, as you push on these brakes in, it has a tendency of wanting to spread the frame apart used by the force of the brakes. So what these do is it kind of, prevents it from spreading the frame out. It also has rapid rise shifting. So in the back here, the spring is in such a way that, like, when you release tension on the shifter, it actually goes up into the easier gears. So if you want to come down into the harder gears, you have to pull on the shifter and like add the tension to the cable. Basically the cable is backwards. So you see, if I add tension to the cable, it makes the gears harder, which is the opposite of like any normal derailleur. It's super cool because it's really easy to just dump gears up, which is like a weird thing. And it makes it super fun. These wheels came off of sort of this parts bike that we ended up using the frame for a different project. And these beautiful Cane Creek wheels came off of it. These tires, I had always wanted these Reinhurst Rat Trap, or Renee whatever, Hurst Rat Trap Pass tires. When I bought them for like $80 a piece, they were ridiculously expensive. I didn't have yellow wheels planned. I was gonna use black wheels. So I bought the tan walls, and since I went to the yellow wheels. Obviously in hindsight, like black would have been a lot better, but the tan on yellow has kind of grown on me, although it grew on me and I liked it for a while, but I'm kind of over it now. But they also were set up tubeless, so I had these things tubeless, and this front one is set up tubeless. So it's just, yeah, it's tubeless on this old rim, but these tires, there's nothing wrong with the compatibility between the tires and the rims. Like, it was able to go ghetto tubeless, no problem, but these tires specifically don't like to be tubeless. So it says, the TC here means tubeless compatible, but I don't know. If you guys have any experience with those tires, let me know, because this one is also obviously tubeless, but it's just, I've let it go. What happens is all the air just seeps out from the sidewall, like the actual sidewall here. So my plan with this is, yeah, throw some tubes in it, which is a bummer because I really like the blue anode. I bought the blue to match the logo, and this thing was when I first had it, but it's got a couple 100 miles on it. Another thing, this is a concept that was introduced on the Rativists website with this dude named Spencer. Had a vintage Schwinn that he had S&M Husky bars on it, which was kind of coincidentally like the same time that I was building the same bike. Anyways, he calls them Genesis components, which basically means a component that you use or that like inspires you to make a whole bike. And that's what these cranks are for me here. These cranks were given to me about 10 years ago after working on a really cool like vintage 90s like full ano like Kuga crank, totally specced out bike. And I geeked out over it, and the guy appreciated that I appreciated old bikes, and he handed me these in the box, which were new, old stock. So I had these laying around for years, and I had always wanted to build something. So I thought that a dad bike build for my daughter and I would be a perfect use for it. So that's where they went. It's got this cool Quicksilver sticker on it that was there when I got it. And then turbo saddle, which I'm no longer a fan of, so I will be swapping that out. I like obviously turbo saddles are dope, but I don't think I can do the yellow with the tan with the brown anymore, and these grips gotta go. So my plan for this are new saddle, tubes in the tires, new grips, and then clean it up, and then I'll show you guys, I'll take you guys along, because this is the cool like 90s mountain bike shit that the kids are into these days. And this thing's just oozing with cool, so we'll do that. Boom. Yo, next up is this vintage French handmade tandem bicycle that is just stunningly pretty. Like, check this thing out. So I picked this up a few years ago for family. They wanted a tandem to cruise around on, and so I went on Craigslist at the time, because this was pre-marketplace, and found this tandem for like, I want to say it was like $100. It looked different, not too much different. It didn't have, obviously, so when I got it, I stripped the bike, repainted it. It had drop bars, so it was 2 drop bars. Obviously not tandem wall tires, no fenders, and then it didn't have the Brooks saddles. It had a Voce Torrens, which are cool vintage saddles. I also hand polished all of the aluminum pieces before I had a polisher. So anyways, this is what it looks like. This head badge right here I had custom made. There is a woman named, she goes by Jen Green Head Badges on Instagram. And I think I built this bike 5 or 6 years ago. So I was one of the first to get a Jen Green head badge, which is my claim to fame. These are Velo Orange fenders here. Panaracer Pasela 27-inch by 1.25" tires. And then here's the beautiful lugged sort of frame. It's like lugged here and then fillet brazed here, but there's a lug there. That's just beautiful. I cheaped out a little bit on the shifters. I just got like whatevers for here. That's a bit of a miss. Like if I were to do it again, I think I would do thummies. If I were to do it again, I also don't like these Velo orange bars. I would have done wider bars, a little bit more upright. These are just they're a little bit too aggro when you're sitting upright and like level with the saddle. So it needs to be a little bit chiller. The geometry for this, since it's like a drop bar road bike, is kind of twitchy, and these just like are a little bit nervous when you have all the weight of like the rider and the stoker. Anyways, here's the rest of the frame. So it goes into this like double down tube here. Here's that front bottom bracket. So this is like split right here. It's like a bottom bracket that was cut in half, and then another one was brazed into it. These TA cranks, I got these MKS pedals for it. Like I said, everything, all the aluminum on it's hand polished by me. These TA cranks are just beautiful in my opinion. Double brook saddles. So this was the one I actually put on trash bike just for a little while because the seat post fit. This is a B67 and this is a B67S, which means it's a little bit shorter. It also has this Shimano Deerhead rear derailleur, which I think is a really neat touch. I like Shimano Deerhead a lot. And look at how nice this fender tucked in. So this is a really nice bike. It doesn't get... I built another tandem, which is the Schwinn Tandem, which you can see the video on. So this one is also kind of like a rafter hanger, just art hanging out. And I think it's beautiful. I hope you do too. Oh my goodness, I have been waiting to share this one. This is the bike that is so bad it's good. Pizza slice. So this thing is an early 2000s Cannondale slice, which was a tri bike or like a time trial bike. So the frame is full carbon, the seat post is carbon. And now it's completely different. So, all right, how do we even describe this? It's a full carbon tri bike with BMX bars, a dynamo hub, a basket, a front light, a rear light, a 3-speed grip shift, and a coaster brake. So yeah, that's what this thing is. And I'm telling you, like, it fits a small pizza from the pizza place up the street in the basket perfectly. I just cut that one layer out here and it fits in. And yeah, that's how I put my pizza in there and bring it home. So pizza in there, salad right there, and then just cruise along with your 3-speed grip shift. So yeah. Oh, also obviously it's wrapped in pepperoni pizza. So this is just like a vinyl wrap from 3M or something from Etsy. Yeah, really not much else to say. Let's see, BMX stem from GT, random bars. The rack is just hacked on there. That was supposed to be temporary. It ended up being a couple 100 miles. I've definitely ridden the shit out of this bike. Not even kidding you. I do I put a lot of miles on this thing. It's actually really great. The 3-speed hub doesn't work well at all. The brakes don't work well at all. In a perfect world, I would have a brake right there and a brake right here, but I don't. And it is what it is. Pizza bike, I think, might change. I have some different bars that GT came out with that I think are pretty cool, and they're chrome. So I've had pizza bike in its current iteration for probably 2 years now. So let me tell you about pizza, like the reason why it's a pizza bike. It's a Cannondale Slice. It's called Slice, and it serves no purpose in this world other than like taking up space, because no one is gonna race this frame. It's super small, which is why I put the riser bars on it. And so yeah, pizza slice. It's a play on words. It is what it is. But this thing was built as a joke and ended up being like just such a good towny cruiser. So it's light and snappy around town, but the Geo is pretty good with this setup, so it's like pretty solid. The only thing I would change, like I said, would be to add brakes and then fix the janky sort of like rack mount that I made like temporarily. And that's really it. Like, I love this bike. It's good as is. However, now that I've been riding e-bikes a little bit more, this has fallen out of rotation. This used to be an everyday ride. Now e-bikes are an everyday ride. So at some point, this will come back into rotation. Now that it's in the shed, I'll probably ride it today. Frickin' pizza slice. Boom. Okay, speaking of basket bikes, this is my 1961 Schwinn Tornado. I've had this bike longer than any other bike that I own. I've had this bike, I think, I'd have to think a little bit, which I don't like to do. Probably 20 years. I think I've had it since I was a kid. I actually found it in a dump. I was going to the dump one day as a kid with my dad, and we were following this pickup truck that just had probably 15, 20 vintage Schwinns in the back, and that truck dumped them all off at the dump. And basically as soon as they hit the pile, I just took them all and put them in my truck. So that's where my love of vintage Schwinn started, with that like initial horde that I came across when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, like all through my teens. I did stupid teenager stuff with the rest of them, and unfortunately most of them have disappeared. I lost a couple in moves, moving back and forth like from apartments and colleges. I gave some away, I broke some or whatever. They all disappeared except for this one. This bike's interesting because it's a 24-inch Schwinn Typhoon. So that's like it's a boy's bike with fenders. It had a chain guide. These are things that I've lost like as a stupid kid, and I kind of regret it, but I also really like the way it is right now. It had original 24-inch rims. We were jumping this thing in college. We had like some dirt jumps, and we brought it to the dirt jumps, and I ended up tacoing the rear and the front rim. Actually, I got hit by a car gently from behind, and it just got sucked up underneath the bumper and tacoed the rim, and then we jumped it. But anyways, I ended up shoving these 26-inch wheels in here, and they just kind of fit-ish. So it's basically a 24-inch bike converted to 26. And these are also original Schwinn wheels. This was from another like Chicago Schwinn that we had in college that we threw down a set of stairs that was huge, and we destroyed it, which is unfortunate. But live and learn. Now I saved them. This I switched to these like 26-inch forks because the wheels just didn't fit in the 24-inch forks. I just love running these old tires. I don't even care. stem is like a vintage road bike stem. The reason I did that and took the Schwinn stem off is because with the leverage of these bars, you could move it in the stem, and no matter how tight you got that bolt, you could always move it. And with these, it seems to hold these. I like to jump and like wheelie this bike, so it's nice to have those bars stay where they're supposed to be. Also, last night I just put a new seat post on this thing that's relatively straight. Before I had this thing slammed, I'll show you a picture, and I had it slammed for the last probably 8 years, and it was pretty much unrideable. And so it was kind of just sitting in the back, not getting ridden, kind of like a bit of a bummer. And because as soon as I put this seat on, or the seat post, it's like a dream to ride now. I absolutely love riding it. This basket showed up on the side of my street a couple weeks ago, and I decided to throw it on. I don't think I like it, but it's always fun to try new things. So anyways, that's my Schwinn Tornado. Oh, I also put this chain guide on. It says, this thing's been through hell and back. I mean, hell and back. This bike was with me through my most hellish teenage years. I'm sorry, bike, but I'm glad you're still with us. Okay, going off the wall now and just going up into the rafters here. This was my Cannondale Topstone, or is my Cannondale Topstone alloy. My next project with this is I just got a new Cannondale alloy frame. It's the next generation, so that's the previous generation. This is the next generation. So I like running 47 millimeter thick tires on this bike because I just get rowdy with it. And in order to do that in this previous generation frame, you have to run 650B, which I kind of just feel like a clown riding. So this bike will allow me to run 700C by 700C by 45, which is thick enough. So soon I will be basically frame swapping this bike onto here and then figuring out a wheel set for this bike. So that's what that is. E-bike is just kind of like a daily driver right now. I just got my wife an old Charge e-bike, which was like a display model. So it's in pretty rough shape. I have to put that thing back together. I got it really cheap because it has a broken screen. These things are super fun to ride. I highly recommend it if everybody's looking. And then not least is my Cannondale Habit, which is just my daily shredding mountain bike. Okay, in the basement, honorable mentions include trash bike here, which is my road bike converted to 26-inch fixed. I was thinking about putting disc brakes on this, might still, let me know. I don't have a seat post because I stole it for the tandem again. A parts Schwinn e-bike, I think this is the one that I'm going to use to pull apart and build the other e-bike with. This thing. Kid's bike. Cannondale Super 6 Evo, which I have a video on. This thing is sweet. Go check that video out if this thing interests you at all. Another Schwinn e-bike parts bike deal. And last but not least, a brand new Super 6 Evo that I'm building. Woo! And a whole bunch of wheels for future projects. All right, I can't forget this, which is, I hate to say it, it's also a Schwinn, but it's like a steel. It's a lugged Schwinn. It's different, but it's still pretty nice. Although I had a pretty unfortunate chemical reaction when I was trying to paint this, or it had an unfortunate chemical reaction, so I need to strip the frame and repaint it. This is a really pretty bike when it's done. It has essentially all the Shimano 600 components that I took off of my Panasonic DX5000 when I retro modded that. And so this is all like polished aluminum. It has pretty handlebars and a basket. I built it for my wife. And like I said, it's a really pretty bike, but we wanted to switch the color up. And yeah, Bosch the paint, but plan on fixing it. So this will be another video too. That's it. If you liked any of these bikes at all, let me know. Tell me which ones you think that I should be working on, or like which ones you want to see done next, or if you want to see me ride any of them. I'll get some more riding shots. I've got my GoPro up and running, so I can get a lot better riding videos done. Anyways, it's like, yeah, I mean, we got a ton to choose from. Like I said, we've got that dad bike, xbike, which is a really cool rebuild. We've got all these vintage Schwinns. The Schwinn electric bike conversion, which is the one I'm most excited about right now, aside from the gravel bike frame swap, which I think will also be next. This week, probably also changing the blue Schwinn Klunker's chainring to 36. That's like a no time at all project that I think I'll do this week. Take you through that. But yeah, like I said, if you liked any of this stuff, if you liked any of these bikes, let me know. Comment which ones you want to see more of. I'll show you more of those. But if not, follow along and I'll keep you updated anyways. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.